Okay, I think I figured it out. I think I read 125 volts. So I've got 125 volts AC, kind of terrifying, hooked up to the meter. And I've got the test leads shorted together. On the meter here, they're all turned off, so it's a short. So let's put it on 1,000 ohms. Okay, it's reading just a tad high. We could tweak that just a little bit. Okay, and let's switch it to 2,000 ohms. All right, what about 4,000 ohms? Okay, good. What about 5,000 ohms? Good. Still reading just a little low. Pretty good. Let's go to 10,000 ohms. Notice the M instead of the K. So there's 10K. And we could go to 20K, which is actually, 20K. And then 30K. And we go all the way to 100K. Should take us almost all the way up, pretty much. So here's 100 ohms, which we barely read. And you notice the needle is not all the way up to 250. Let's get it right on 0. Let's go to 100 ohms. Okay, good. What about 500 ohms? There's 500 ohms. There's 1,000 ohms. It's reading a little more accurate now. 2,000 ohms. Okay. 20,000 ohms. Good. So the only problem is there's 110 volts or 125 volts across the meter leads. So you got to be really careful when you're testing ohms with this meter. Okay, now I'm going to take the same 125 volts and just hook it to the meter leads, and I've got it on common, and this is 125 volts. So let's turn 125 volts on, or 120, and it's reading, let me move the needle. Yeah, it's reading about 100 volts, so it's reading a little low. That should be 120. And that's reading 125, and it's reading well over 150 volts. So it's a little off. There's 60 volts right there. A little more accurate there. Remember, we're reading on the 125 volt scale. So there's 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So let's put it on 25, 30. And we've got it on 40. So it's a little off on AC. Let's try it on another scale. Let's try it on the 50 volt scale. 50 volt. And see what we have now. Okay, there's 40 volts. And you can see the 50 volt scales right there. And it's reading about 35. So it's reading a little bit low. Yeah, there's 40 volts right there. And the meter's reading 50. So it's off on the 50 volt scale too. All right. We could try it on the 25 volt scale. So let's take the voltage down to 10 volts. And let's move the meter to the 25 volt scale, which is the bottom scale right there. And it should be reading about 10 volts, maybe a little high. Yeah. Okay, there's pretty much 11 volts on the AC. Okay, so let's take it to, what did we say this scale is, 25? Yeah, so let's take it up to 20, right, there's 20 volts. And we're at 25. So the meter is definitely not accurate, but pretty good for just a ballpark. And this is 110 volt input, 125 volts.